Most of us live our lives without realizing the social control that we're being subjected to. The focus upon a certain ideology that claims to want freedom and claims to want equality for everyone and a fair shake, and there is a very, very thinly veiled cover over this truth. And the truth is that the intentions of this ideology is to bring us all together under one world, where everyone would have equal rights and freedom, liberty, and as George Bush said, the rule of law. Well, what that means, the rule of law, is that the law shall supersede freedom and liberty. That the law will take the place of rights, inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. Inalienable rights. That when we discuss these inalienable rights, causes tremendous discourse. And immediately this ideology agenda from all aspects of the media rain down upon the truth to cover it up. This is what the Southern Poverty Law Center does. For the record, I am of sound mind and body, far from crazy.
Welcome back to Harvard. The crazies are still on the rise. A study by the Southern Poverty Law Center finds that the number of anti-government patriot groups has exploded over the last 4 years. According to the study, these groups typically believe that the federal government is conspiring to take Americans' guns away from them and destroy their liberties as it paves the way for a global one-world government.
They leave out an awful lot. They leave out that the sheeple believe that they're working for their good, for their middle class, and for all of them to have proper health care and rights and all of these other things, as they enslave them with debt and impossible burdens to carry, putting more and more burdens on families where the state will have to help and then eventually take away the property of the people. It is paying for your own enslavement. And the sheep believe the lie that they're being helped by the top.
It's like the Constitution Party. We Are Change.
I co-founded We Are Change Connecticut, and I am far from crazy. Crazy like a fox, maybe.
Tyranny Response Team and Americans for a Free Republic. And these anti-government patriot groups have skyrocketed in number during President Obama's time in office.
That's because tyranny is rising in America with their social justice and equal rights keeping us safe.
There were only 149 groups back in 2008. In 2012, there were more than 1,300, and that's an increase of over 800%. Look at the chart there. Yesterday, the Southern Poverty Law Center sent a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano and Attorney General Eric Holder warning that the gun control debate may lead to even more such groups being founded.
Eric Holder, that criminal.
We've exposed it. Eric Holder, Ken Melson, Billy Hoover, Mark Tate have all ignored documentary evidence of abuses and unethical conduct by Chief Counsel's office and our leadership.
We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Leftist communist. Same thing with this whole administration. It's filled with Congress. Alan West went on there saying that 80 people in Congress that are Marxists.
78 to 81 members of the Democratic Party that are members of the Communist Party. You mean like card-carrying members of the Communist Party?
Well, unfortunately, Soledad, you didn't play the entire thing, and I talked about the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and we've been back and forth about this, and I've had to give quite a few people a little tutorial about the political spectrum of ideologies, and there's a thin separation. And at the turn of the century here in the United States of America, American communists renamed themselves progressive, but the strategy and the tactics and the ideology still remains the same. And when you're a member of a caucus that actually wanted to have a constitutional amendment to redistribute wealth in the United States of America, I don't think that's in keeping with the principles and values of this country.
So
people who voted
name
against
names
the
for me.
balanced budget amendment.
Start naming of the 78 to 81. No, we do. I'm dying to know. Which are the
What a blatant little desperate setup that was,
right here.
Progressive Caucus.
Progressive Caucus members. So Keith Ellison is a communist?
And Soledad. You know something?
Raul Grijalva is a communist?
Well, look, I'm just talking about the fact of the ideologies, the principles
Tammy
that you
Baldwin's
believe in.
A communist.
You
Judy
can
Chu
call
is a
it. You
communist?
can call it whatever you want. You can call it.
No, but I
want to
know what you're calling it.
I'm talking about their beliefs. I'm calling it this: communist, progressive, Marxist, socialist, statist, which is another term that's been used. I'm looking at the ideologies, I'm looking at the things that they believe in, and if you don't think that we have to stand upon truth and be able to identify and clearly contrast the different principles and values and ideologies and principles of governance here in this country, then we're never going to get to the fact of accepting the true debate that's happening in America. We don't need a bureaucratic nanny-state. We need to stay a constitutional republic. And I think that a lot of people need to study that and understand what it is.
Communists. It's true. It's happening. You can't deny this. There's a lot of things going on here. Like the Southern Poverty Law Center is working like in concert, giving intelligence and disinformation and COINTELPRO to our government for Homeland Security.
Mark Potok is a respected guy for us. He's with the Southern Poverty Law Center.
It's a Hegelian thing. The Southern Poverty Law Center creates the hate and then filters all this information. You got to fight this hate to all these different police departments.
Let me bring to your attention an organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center. They are an organization whose alleged purpose is to fight hate and bigotry. The Southern Poverty Law Center has become the so-called go-to experts on domestic hate groups and terrorists. Increasingly, their information is used by some state and federal agencies as a resource for intelligence on supposed hate groups and potential domestic terrorism.
During the 1960s, the most notorious violent terrorist group in the United States was the Weather Underground. One of the principal leaders of that organization was William Ayers, Bill Ayers, and his wife Bernadine Dorn. They led a rampage of bombings across the United States. Now, it's interesting that the Southern Poverty Law Center holds up Bill Ayers now as a leader in their teaching tolerance program. Bill Ayers has supposedly transformed himself into a distinguished professor of education. So now he is reforming our schools and teaching our children. But it's important to note that Bill Ayers is an unrepentant former terrorist. That is, he has said in numerous interviews that he does not regret his activities of the 1960s, nor does he repudiate terrorism per se. That is, he said he cannot rule out using it again in the future.
Mark Potok is a respected guy for us. He's with the Southern Poverty Law Center.
So, instead of informing local officials on hate groups, they seem to be creating their own hate. If this alone wasn't disturbing enough, Southern Poverty Law Center's resources are increasingly being used by certain agencies of the federal government. One in particular is the Department of Homeland Security. In 2009, they issued a report on violent right-wing extremism. This caused many problems for the Department of Homeland Security, their Secretary, Janet Napolitano, and the Obama administration. This report targeted veterans returning from Afghanistan and Iraq as being prime candidates for involvement in right-wing extremism and terrorism here at home.
So our returning veterans who have sworn and took an oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution are the problem. they're the potential terrorists. Yes, of course, because if you're bringing in a socialist, authoritarian, communist regime, freedom and liberty can't be defended.
Mark Potok is a respected guy for us. He's with the Southern Poverty Law Center.
So you have to demonize those that would defend it. Wouldn't you agree?
Many veterans groups rightfully got upset with this and put pressure on the administration, and the Department of Homeland Security and Secretary Napolitano was forced to sort of apologize. She said she was sorry that this report had offended veterans. But it went beyond that. It targeted people who are opposed to the United Nations, people who are opposed to abortion, and lumped them together with actual terrorists and extremists around the country.
Napolitano resisted attempts by members of Congress and the public to have the sources and provenance of this report released. Finally, under the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, the department was forced to release the information.
And lo and behold, when it comes out, when it was released, we find a whole listing for the sources of this report come from website citations of the Southern Poverty Law Center. So in effect, what we see with this one report is that the SPLC has hijacked the Department of Homeland Security and transferred the SPLC's agenda directly into the official Department of Homeland Security, one of our largest bureaucracies and police agencies in the country, directly into the DHS, the Department of Justice, and the FBI.
There is an attempt by the Southern Poverty Law Center to make local police departments an enforcement arm of a political agenda. This is not the role of the police in America. As a former police officer, I do not appreciate deception or lies, and I well imagine that you feel the same way.
Do you understand that the whole concept of restoration of our republic, that we're getting called all of these demonized and attacked, we being people that want freedom and liberty? In other words, I want freedom, I want liberty, I don't want to be taxed to death, I don't want to be put into this Marxist, socialist, authoritarian New World Order. I'm resisting because I have the inalienable rights of freedom and liberty at my side and God on my side. While the sheep who are unaware and unawake, and I hope that I keep getting to people, that's why I do this. Everybody's got to wake up. These people, they're going to take away everything they say they're going to give you. They're going to give to you and then take away. That's what they do. Obamacare. It's going to destroy our country. We have been slowly moving towards the left.
That the objective of the secret policy, which we can't tell the American public because they're not sophisticated enough to see the value, is that through a steady result of erosion of New Deals, we bring the American society steadily to the left, right, and through a sound concept of benign containment, we merge into the vital center of the socialist left. Those are his words, not mine.
It's the truth. But you must find the truth. You must seek it and find it, and you will. A closing thought. Keep your mind on the things you want, not the things you don't. I want liberty and freedom. What do you want? I'm Howard Nima. Thank you for watching Truth Talk News. Claims to want equality for everyone and a fair shake, and there is a very, very thinly veiled cover over this truth. And the truth is that most of us live our lives without realizing the social control that we're being subjected to. The focus upon a certain ideology that claims to want freedom and supersede freedom and liberty. That the law will take the place of rights, inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. Inalienable rights. That when we discuss these inalienable rights, the intentions of this ideology is to bring us all together under one world, where everyone would have equal rights and freedom, liberty, and as George Bush said, the rule of law. Well, what that means, the rule of law, is that the law shall